What's up, guys? We are in northern Georgia. This is Jason Bent's Woodworking, and of course Jeremy's over here too. We're gonna do a little bit of a shop tour, and let me forewarn you guys, this shop is really awesome. So before we get started, who paid for all these tools?
I did.
And how did you pay for them?
With profits.
So there you go. Work your butt off and you guys can get anything that you want to get. So I'm gonna switch around to this other side of the camera here. And so this shop, what's the size of this shop?
24 by 20.
24 by 20. So left and right on the screen is 20, and this way is 24. We're going to just basically move around the shop, cover everything, and talk about all the stuff. So over here in this corner, you've got this awesome assembly table that you recently just completed, right?
Yes, just recently.
And this is most of your Festool stuff, all of your Festool stuff in this corner, right?
Most of it, yeah. With the exception of the new MFT cart, yeah, that's pretty much everything.
A lot of natural light over here, and man, I just love this space. This is also a dedicated shop. This is specifically for this shop. And all of your layout stuff over here on the wall, clamps behind it. And moving over to the miter saw station on this wall.
Yeah, you might recognize it.
A little bit. Looks somewhat similar.
Somewhat similar to this guy that I know.
Yeah. So do you have plans for drawers at all, or?
So I did originally. I was actually just talking about this morning. So my original plan was to build drawers, and I bought all the slides, and I did everything, and then I decided after I finished building it, I just wanted to start woodworking again.
Yeah.
So I kind of just said screw it, and I would go ahead and start doing some other woodworking projects. And it kind of just never happened. And I just started putting different stuff in there, and the things that are in those little cubbies have changed multiple times, but it is what it is. It works very good. I'm not a huge fan of drawers, if I'm being totally honest. But
really? So I'm the opposite. I am a drawers over doors kind of guy. Well, also drawers for mostly storage stuff, but of course there's open cubbies that are nice too.
See, the thing that I like about the open cubbies in the top, for me, that was a huge benefit for me for the lumber storage. Mm-hmm. Because originally I had like this crappy shelf or whatever that housed all of my scraps, and I wanted to get rid of that. So being able to separate things by types of wood for my cutoffs, that to me was a huge benefit. And it used to be a lot more full, and then I kind of started downgrading, and which is why I made one of them just for additional stuff that I use, the sandpaper, the bandsaw blades, that kind of stuff.
Right on.
But now I can kind of separate, the types of wood based off of what I use it for.
Right on. So let's walk through this whole wall. How do you like your California air compressor?
I love it. It's extremely quiet compared to the one I had before, and that was my biggest selling point for that. It used to be housed in my assembly table that I had previously, but it actually didn't. It really made no difference in terms of like how loud it was out of the assembly table versus now it's out in the open. Right on.
What kind of nail guns do you have up here?
I have got a Porter Cable 18 gauge, and then I have the Grex.
Okay, that's the one I was looking at. I didn't recognize that one.
That's the pin nailer, and that's pretty much all I use now. I can't even remember the last time I used the 18 gauge. Last year at the woodworking show, actually, I met one of the reps from Grex, and they recommended, like, you really don't need an 18 gauge. The pin nailer will give all the holding power. I only use it really to keep stuff in place until I actually go ahead and get clamps on it. So the pin nailer is more than enough power.
Right. And the whole point for the most part, the whole point of brad nails is to hold stuff while the glue dries.
Yep.
Glue sets up. Right on. Well, walk us through the rest of this going around the shop this way.
Okay, so as you come away from my miter saw station, I've got my bandsaw here. And the reason that I chose to put my bandsaw here was because, one, I have the space on the backside, and I feel like I have enough space. I've never run into the scenario where I actually needed to move this, but I did place here, and I made my hose long enough to where I could kind of pull it out. But I very rarely ever cut anything that's so long that it actually extends into here. So I just kind of wanted it out of the way, but at the same time, like my drill press and my bandsaw are co-located near my table saw because I feel like I do things in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, if I might cut something down to a rough size, I can immediately turn around and I can take it to my table saw and I'll be good to go. Or if I'm using something with the drill press, I'm cutting it on the miter saw, I'm taking over my drill press. So
right on. And it's on a mobile base too, so if you need
it
to
is
move
on a mobile base, yeah. So if I do need to move it, it's very, very easy to move. I just loosen these little locking casters here and I can pull it away wherever I need to pull it to.
Right
But
on.
I've never had that happen, not once. So here I've got my drill press. I place this here kind of for the same reason. I just wanted them out of the way, but kind of close to anywhere where I might take it after, you know, milling something. I can take it here. This does have dust collection on it, and it actually has its own dedicated 4-inch line that runs all the way to the drill NATO.
Drill NATO, yeah.
Yes, which is one of the greatest inventions ever.
So you really like it?
I really do. This is actually, I bought this last year at the woodworking show in Atlanta for like $40. And this is still the original PVC piece that comes with it. And I actually have a replacement for it, but I've just never had the need to replace it.
Right on. And then woodpecker's fence on the...
I do. I've got the woodpecker's drill press table. This thing is really, really great. It has really come in handy. Recently, we've been doing a lot of champagne riddling racks. Mm-hmm. And having the ability to move this to 45 degrees and then clamp it down with these really, really nice clamps has really paid dividends. So we've got a little jig that we set up on that, and it works really well. That's probably what it gets used for the most, to be honest with you.
Real quick, on the wall right here is your Incra crosscut sled.
Yes.
And how do you like it?
I love it. Is it the Incra? It's like the Miter 5000 crosscut sled. I like it a lot. I haven't used it a ton yet, but the times that I have used it, I was very glad that I had it.
Yeah.
I mean, anything Incra really is just great because of the ability to make such fine adjustments. And for me, with Incra, it's like the guarantee that the minute you put it back on something, it's on the same exact thing.
Yeah. So, by the way, guys, I don't know if this looks like I'm looking up to Jason, but he's much taller than I am. I'm short. So, moving off...
I can lower down if I need to.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, moving off in the corner, we've got a jet dust collector that's quite small. It's a little tiny dust collector.
It's a very, very small dust collector, yeah.
This thing's huge. Right on.
It's the 3 horsepower dust collector unit, and it's really good. It just takes up a really big footprint, and that's one of the downsides, in my opinion, to this dust collector. It does have, I want to say it's an 8-inch port that comes off and branches down into 3 4-inch splits.
Yep.
And originally I only had one hose coming off of that, and I had the other 2 capped. But when I actually changed my dust collection layout, I decided to use all 3 and just operate off blast gates, which I was operating off blast gates before. But I figured if I have the extra hose, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to redo my entire dust collection, and that was the concern. If I would have, you know, all the different changes that I made to the shop, I would have had to change every single one of the dust collection setups. But now I just ran one hose off for my table saw and joiner, and then one for my drill press. Right
on. So you've got all the major tools here have dedicated dust collection.
They all do. Everything, yeah, every major tool has dedicated dust collection from the jet dust collection unit itself. And then, you know, some of the smaller tools have separate smaller dust collection, you know, like shop packs or whatever.
And you do have an air filtration system above your head right there?
I do. I've got the jet air filtration system. I've been eyeballing the new Powermatic air filtration system lately, but this one has worked really, really, really good. I don't know, since I ran this PVC here, if that changes anything. If I'm being totally honest, I don't run this super often, only when I'm doing stuff that really is creating a lot of dust. Mm-hmm. Or at the end of the day, sometimes I'll turn that on and put it on a timer and just kind of let it run. So
So along the 24-foot length here, the center of that wall is a set of double doors, and right behind me over here is another door. How often do you work much with the doors open?
I do, but not necessarily because of like temperature or anything. So now that I've insulated the shop, it actually stays really warm or really cool. The reason that I put my table saw where I did is because of that door. It allows me, if I need to, I can open up that door and I can run longer pieces, anything that's like 8 feet or longer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of in line with my saw blade. So it just kind of works out good. Because I used to have my table saw over here, because of the double doors, I could bring full sheets of plywood up and I could actually run it through the table saw, but then who likes running full sheets of plywood through a table saw? So
not I.
Now that I have the track saw, I have no need for that.
Right on. So you've got a little bit of mechanics tool chest and the rigid oscillating spindle / belt sander that a lot of people seem to have. A lot of people seem to really enjoy this thing.
I do. The dust collection is horrible, but it's a love-hate relationship. I love it every time I use it. It just creates a lot of fine dust, and I end up blowing it off and having to clean it all off. But it does exactly what I want it to do.
Right on. So I am one of the few people who have who don't have a TV in my shop. It seems like
shame.
It seems like TVs are so popular in shops nowadays. Is it always on most of the time?
No, actually almost never, except for football season. The only reason that's in here is because when it is time for football season, I do like to watch football for fantasy football reasons.
Fantasy, yeah, there you go. So I'm one of those that, like, if the TV's on and it's going in the shop, that means I can't get any work done because I'm so easily distracted.
Well, there's usually so much noise that I've tried to watch TV shows and stuff, at least have it playing, but you know, as soon as you turn the dust collection on, you can't hear it anymore anyway. So
very, very, very true. So next up on this wall is the Powermatic. Is that a 15 or 16 inch?
It is the 15 inch.
15 inch. Okay, right on. And that's
brand new.
Brand new. Still smells like the shipping grease.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm just
probably
kidding.
still has some on it somewhere.
But that is the helical head version?
It is.
And you have experience with both helical head and straight knives?
Yes.
And what would you say?
100% helical head.
Yes. Another one for the
It's not even a question.
Absolutely. There's such a difference. And like the longevity of the blades, and then the
cut quality.
The cut quality, no sharpening, no indexing.
Yeah. The cut quality is, when I bought the jointer, the cut quality was so good, it almost feels like you don't even have to sand it afterwards. And I was so impressed that I just said, I got to upgrade and
invest into that.
Do the planer for sure. Because I'd have one side that was really, really nice, one face, then I run it through my DeWalt. Not that the DeWalt did a bad job. It's you could just tell one side was on a helical head, one side was not on a helical head.
I completely understand that observation. Completely understand it. Next up after that is your really nice router table. This is this a full Incra setup, the whole thing?
It is. So it's the Incra Works package, and then the base with the drawers and the cabinet and all that stuff, the dust collection built in. That's all inspired from Guy Dunlap from Guy's Woodshop.
Right on.
To include the assembly table is based off of the design that he had recently published. But I just love the Incra system. I love anything that Incra makes, really. And I like the way that router table is set up as opposed to traditional router tables. The thing that I like the most, I guess you could say, about the Incra stuff is that if you have to make a cut on something and change the measurement and then go back and make the cut at the original measurement, you know every single time that stuff is like perfect.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that their system is set up. So it is a phenomenal router table, and the dust collection on it is ridiculous.
So you've got these just some feed rollers here to keep the stuff tight up against the fence. I noticed you have it on the table saw as well. What do you think of those?
They're great. I haven't had a chance to use the ones on the router table just yet. My wife got me those for Christmas because she's super awesome. But the ones on the table saw, I assume that these are going to work just as good as those. The ones on the table saw are invaluable. It's one of the best purchases I've made for my table saw, or really for anything for that matter.
Right on. And then in this corner, you have the top line of the dust collection running to a Rockler dust right hose with a couple attachments.
Correct.
That, in my shop, is one of the handiest things I've had for several years now, just cleaning up, because I prefer to clean up with suction rather than a broom, which throws crap in the air. Whenever possible, I'd rather vacuum something up than sweep,
Right. Typically, I do the same thing. Obviously, the better your dust collection gets, I feel like the less your mess that you have to clean up is. So typically what I'll do is I'll sweep stuff into a small pile in the area that I created it, and then I'll use that hose. And that hose will reach just about anywhere in this shop. I don't really like the location that it's in right now, but with so many changes I've made in my dust collection system, that kind of just ended up being the location for it. But again, that hose is so long, it really stretches to anywhere I need it to. And then I really like the attachment that's hanging up there as well, because it's got the little felt stuff on the end or whatever, where you can like run it over all of your tools and stuff, and it's not scratching it or anything like that. So that's how I'll get all the real fine dust off of everything. Right
on. And then some just miscellaneous boards over here. You guys any cool projects upcoming with these?
No, actually. I got a lot of walnut there, which is all common walnut, and my local lumber supplier every once in a while will get common walnut, which I only have to pay like $2.29 a board foot.
What?
Yeah.
You're swinging the camera. What?
Yeah, $2.29 a board foot for the common 2 walnut. You'll get some knots and stuff in it, but if you pick through them, any time that happens, I buy a lot, because typically it's about $7.50 a board foot for first and seconds. So
that's nuts.
And then every once in a while they'll have that real nice curly maple, and that was a really, really good curly maple board that I bought.
Yeah, that's a nice board.
And that was actually only about $2.30 a board foot.
I just went blank there. $2.30 a board foot.
Yeah. It's the prices of lumber apparently are pretty good in Georgia.
Look at that. That's a nice piece of wood.
It's a really very, very. It's rare that we get pieces that have that much curl in it. And when I saw that, I immediately had to buy it. So, really, just with my obsession lately with building stuff out of walnut in my shop, like clamp racks or assembly tables or chisel holders or whatever else. That's really why I have that, because I just keep coming up with new ideas every day that I think might be beneficial to my whole design. So.
Right on. And then this is your newest edition, I think you just said?
Newest edition, yeah. I just finished it up this past week. It is my mobile cart for my MFT.
Mobile cart for the MFT table. And you have one of these very, very interesting vac systems. The vac pod, is that what they're called?
VacSys.
VacSys?
Yeah. One of the coolest things I've bought.
Yeah. A very, very adaptable vise, I guess you could say, for flat stock.
Yes, absolutely. And there's all kinds of different cool things that you can do with it. I like having it there because, one, I can take it out anytime I want to, and I can place it on any flat surface. And the pump itself actually is a suction as well, or the whole clamp system itself will suction to any surface, which is nice because you can move it and put it on any surface, and that alone will keep it steady. But I made this little holder for it, and the whole idea behind the MFT cart was I love the MFT and I love the idea of the MFT. The whole issue behind it was because I had the VacSys and the vacuum underneath it. If I ever had to move the actual MFT itself, I also had to try to drag all of those things along with it.
That makes sense.
So
yeah.
By putting everything in one location, not only did it make the table a lot more stable, because now it's not resting on the legs, it's resting on the platform in which I built for it, but now all of the cables, all of the hoses, everything is housed in one location. So all I have to do is unlock my casters and I can move it over. And I built it to be the same height. Actually, I take that back. Just slightly higher than my assembly table itself, because now my assembly table will act as both an in-feed or an out-feed support for that when I need to use it.
This is your pretty handy dandy Dragonfly Woodworking leather apron.
Yes.
I like the color combo you went with on yours.
I originally had no intention on going dual color.
Yeah?
And I actually asked them about that, and they said that they could do it, so I was all for it.
A little bit of a, was that a little magnet holder right there?
It is, to hold all the bits and stuff. That has really been a great addition.
Yeah, convenient. All right, so the lighting's probably killing my camera here as far as the exposure for a little bit, but I was telling Jason one of the things I really like about his shop is the amount of natural light that he gets coming in here, and he actually put these walnut boards here to stop some of the light coming through as we're recording. But and natural light is it can be a blessing or a detriment as far as like video recording, but if it wasn't for video, I would want to have as much natural light as possible coming through into a shop, and being able to actually see outside as you're working occasionally, it just makes you feel less confined like I am typically in my shop. So I really like the amount of natural light here. Now, if do you want to run through this assembly table real quick? I just glossed right over it at the beginning.
Sure. So my whole idea behind the assembly table is that the sustainers that I had were taking up entirely too much space, and I wasn't using the sustainers for what they were designed for. So it really served no purpose. So I was watching a YouTube video from Guy Dunlap from Guy's Woodshop, and he had a really, really cool video with a very, very similar design on a mobile assembly table that he made for his shop that housed all of his sustainers. So when I saw that, I started thinking how I could incorporate that into my shop, and I wanted to be able to house basically all of my sustainers, but at the same time, all of the major items that I used on a regular basis to be housed in a smaller amount of drawers that everything would fit. And then, as you can see on the side there, I've started to incorporate things on the side, things that I use on a regular basis, so I don't even have to worry about grabbing them out of drawers. So it's really just one basically house for all of the different sustainers, and now I can actually use the sustainers for what they're designed for, which is to hold the equipment so well with their little cutouts that like house everything exactly the way they're supposed to be. So I just kind of felt like I was wasting the sustainers, and they were taking up a bunch of space. So I wanted to actually start using them, and that's kind of where this whole idea came from.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. How do you like these Wood River chisels?
I like them a lot. The ones on the right, the longer ones, those I've actually used fairly often. The ones on the left-hand side I recently just purchased because I found that some of the longer ones, it's harder to do some of this fine detail work, and I wanted something a little bit shorter, so I actually just purchased those and then made that little mount for all of them.
Right on, right on. And this guy, the, was it GR5, GRS? Oh, I can't, what is that, GRS?
Yeah, the TSO products,
yes.
The square. Recently purchased that. I've had opportunity to use it a few times, and I really, really, really like it.
That's interesting to me. That if you guys haven't seen one of these, they clip onto the Festool track or the Triton track, or like I think they also do the Makita and
Makita
the
as
Wall.
well, yeah.
They basically clip onto all of the tracks of the track saws, and it's basically turning your track into a giant speed square, which makes cutting 90 degrees quick and easy. And I've always thought that concept is just brilliant. It just makes so much sense.
I've used it now a few times, and it's really, really, really handy to have. I do have the Festool ones that they come with, but they're a little bit more cumbersome. I wanted something a little bit smaller, especially for the smaller tracks, and that thing has been perfect.
Right on. And then you have the Festool overarm dust collection for the assembly area over here. So basically whatever you're working on, that thing can reach, and you'll have power and dust collection for all the tools. So this is a nice little organized, convenient little corner. I really like it over here.
Thank you. It's the corner I spend the most time in my shop. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would make it more efficient for me in this corner, and it's just been a constant change. Every week or two, I'm thinking of something new to put something somewhere and have it more easily accessible.
Right on. Well, the coolest thing about this whole shop is, like I said at the very beginning, you bought all this stuff. All of your hard work has been reinvested back into this stuff. And yeah, this is the benefits of fruits of your labor. I guess
Fruits of
that's
my
what I'm
labor,
trying to
yep.
say. Yeah. But anyway, Jason Bent's Woodworking. If you guys are on Instagram, be sure to follow him. I'll have a link in the description. But what's your Instagram tag?
Bent's Woodworking.
Bent's Woodworking.
Yep.
And then also on YouTube. Good stuff. Thumbs up. You guys take care. I'll have links to follow him on all the social media and all that good stuff. You guys take care. And if you guys have any questions for Jason, leave them in the comments, and we'll be sure to answer them as they come in. So you guys take care. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time. I'm sure you noticed that we completely forgot to talk about the center tool area in his shop. We just got carried away talking and completely forgot about it. So this is the area where Jason has his table saw and his jointer. The table saw is a SawStop PCS table saw with the folding outfeed table, and I believe these were the 36-inch cut capacity rails, which if I were to do it over again, I think I would go with this length rails. I have the 52-inch cut capacity, and rarely do I use the full length, so I think this is pretty much the sweet spot. He also had the Jessam infeed rollers, or the feed rollers. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but they keep the stock down and up against the fence as you're pushing it through the saw. This is the first time I saw those in person, and I'm thinking about picking up a set of those. They look pretty interesting. He also has a cabinet under the extension wing of the saw for a dado stack, blade guard, and other accessories like push sticks and whatnot. To the right of the saw is his Powermatic 8-inch helical head jointer, which he mentioned he really liked it, and again recommended helical head over straight knife setups. This is, like I said, a helical head jointer. And behind the jointer is the dust collection drop that splits to 2 independent blast gates for both the table saw and the jointer. That's going to do it for this shop tour. Jason is pretty active on social media and also YouTube, so I'll have all of his links in the video description and in the article for this video. And if you have any questions or comments for Jason, be sure to leave them, and he will check back in occasionally to answer them for you. That's it. You guys take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next video.